Well, we have more than a quorum here. Is Mr. Rogers not here? Oh, Mr. Rogers is here. Rules Committee will come to order. We're here for consideration of H.R. 754, the Intelligence Authorization Act. We're happy to welcome the distinguished chair of the Committee on Intelligence, Mr. Rogers, and the ranking member, Mr. Ruppersberger. Please proceed. Without objection, any prepared remarks you have will appear in the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't think I'll read the whole thing, but I do want to thank Ranking Member Ruppersberger for his help and assistance. One of the things that we did early on is we sat down and decided that issues of national security were too important for partisanship, and we tried to separate that as much as possible, given this is Washington, D.C. We think we've been pretty successful in doing that, and we think we have some great... Sorry, I just ran up the stairs, by the way, and I'm long past my FBI days, I can tell you that already.
McGovern does that several times a day, and he...
yeah, is it working?
Still alive.
Yeah, okay. Again, I think this is a product of that participation. We were able to work together and get some agreement on why this is so important, an FY11 bill for going into this year. The annual intelligence authorization bill is really a very important bill that should pass the House each year. It provides and allocates a critical national security programs, including those that detect, prevent, and disrupt potential terrorist attacks against the American people. As we recently saw with the successful mission against Osama bin Laden, our intelligence professionals remain on the front lines in America's defense against our enemies. For the last 6 years, Congress has failed to pass a bona fide intelligence authorization bill with funding authorities. Instead, yearly appropriations bills have simply been deemed to be funded and deemed to be authorized in passing an appropriations bill. That trend really needs to stop. The continued success of our intelligence community requires effective and aggressive congressional oversight. Such oversight can only be achieved through the passing of yearly intelligence authorization bills. Passing the bill is a necessary first step if this Congress and the Intelligence Committee are to reassert their proper role overseeing the intelligence community. We must not wait until FY12 to provide the needed support to our intelligence officials and professionals. The bill covers the remainder of fiscal year 2011, and I'm particularly pleased that it has strong bipartisan support, as we talked about with the ranking member and the Democrats as well. The legislative provisions are intentionally limited to focus our attention on providing necessary resources to the men and women of the intelligence community as provided for in the classified annex. Because of the intentionally limited scope, the committee may want to consider whether the structured rule would be beneficial. I further request that the committee waive all points of order against the bill as necessary, because the Intelligence Authorization Act deals with sensitive national security and intelligence programs. I further hope that any rule will recognize the sensitive nature of the programs at issue and provide some form of advance notice for any amendments to be considered on the floor. I understand it has been offered an amendment with respect to the intelligence community whistleblower protections. I'm concerned that this amendment is only a partial solution to this problem and may not be fully consistent with the existing Intelligence Community Whistleblower Protection Act. My staff is already discussing with Chairman Iss's staff how we can more fully and comprehensively address this issue. I hope the committee will allow us to continue this work to resolve it before legislating the matter. And there are some concerns as drafted in the protection of classified and sensitive information, and I think we can work those out if we go through regular order on something that is as important as that. I finally want to explain my manager's amendment, number 12. This amendment would clarify that a provision dealing with the confidential expenditures of the Defense Intelligence Agency would apply only to National Intelligence Program funds. The amendment would also strike Section 412 of the bill, which would create certain accounts to better track intelligence funds. This provision was intended to promote the important goal of auditability, but various technical issues have arisen, and I believe it's prudent to hold this over for a fuller review and revisit the issue in the FY12 bill. And just for the purposes of the committee, we do believe, as of a few minutes ago, there was some agreement on it, but given the late date of this, we think we can push it to the FY12 bill and still still meet the needs and desired and intent of that. I appreciate the bipartisan consensus that has gone into this important bill and hope those efforts continue as the bill is considered on the floor. And I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rogers. Mr.
Mr. Chairman, first, thank you for having us here today and all the members of the Rules Committee. I'm pleased to be here with my friend and colleague, Mr. Rogers. We have made a commitment to each other that we will attempt the best we can to have a teamwork approach to the Intelligence Committee. For many years, we've had a lot of partisan politics, and the stakes are too high in the intelligence community, Intelligence Committee, to not be able to work together when we can. What has happened in the Intelligence Committee for many years, we were not able to put together certain bills either way, and the appropriators would trump, and that's not really the way it's supposed to work. An example of teamwork is bringing bin Laden to justice is clearly the most monumental intelligence achievement we've had in recent history. And a lot of that is because all the agencies came together as a team. And I can truly say this, that we as a country now are clearly the strongest country in our ability to collect intelligence, and we can send a message to the world. If you're going to kill Americans, we're going to find you and bring you to justice. As far as this is concerned, we've had a lot of negotiations trying to come together for the 2011 bill. We have a 2012 bill about 3 or 4 weeks away. In the end, Chairman Rogers and I were able to work out an agreement where I'm going to recommend we support this bill. The major one of our stumbling blocks was that the 2011 bill actually cut positions, and some of those positions were positions in the CIA and the counterintelligence analysts, the people who really worked on the bin Laden case. And Mike agreed that that would be back in the bill, and as a result of that, we could recommend that we vote for this bill. The major issues that we're going to deal with in the Intelligence Committee are going to be in the 2012 bill, as far as funding, as far as space, as far as cybersecurity, all the things that we deal with in the area of intelligence. The classified portion of the bill has been updated, again, I said, since the markup. We've communicated with administration. They have some issues there, but we hope we can resolve those issues. With that, I stand to answer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roseberg. Thanks to both of you for your hard work, and it's a great testament to the relationship that you all have developed, that you've been able to come together in a bipartisan way to deal with this. Obviously, we are all very, very jubilant over the fact that Osama bin Laden has been brought to justice, as you said, Mr. Rogers, in your statement. And if you look at the statement that Mr. Ruppersberger then just made very correctly about the fact that if you're going to be doing the kinds of things that were done on September 11th and the 46 some odd attempts that have been made against us, and I'm happy to say we've effectively blocked, it is, I think, testament to the men and women who are out there working very, very diligently to ensure our security and the security of our interests around the world. I appreciate what you said, Mr. Rogers, about the whistleblower issue. That is something that everyone wants to address. But the idea of looking at it as a static approach is not something that needs to be done. We need to have a comprehensive way to approach it, and I think you've addressed that issue very well, as it was one of the amendments that came before us, and I understand that there is bipartisan concern about it. And so I just have no questions other than to say thank you both for your hard work. It's very important, especially hard for members of Congress to keep their mouths closed, and you all do that and do it very well. And I think that it's an important responsibility that you have. So thank you very much, Mr. Sessions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Welcome to both of you for attending today. I'm quite pleased, perhaps the time that was chosen very appropriately to offer a commendation to the men and women of the agency and all intelligence agencies, notwithstanding CIA or others, who have dedicated themselves to the protection of this country and really done noble work on behalf of the United States. The duty that they're put into many times is so much misunderstood for good reason. But I think that the work that you do to protect this country as part of that oversight is very, very important. I'm delighted that the timing worked out for the bin Laden exercise as well as this that's happening today. And so I really have nothing but accolades for both of you for your work day to day. But I would say this to the gentleman from Michigan: congratulations on becoming our chairman. We have not only high expectations of the performance, but also have great confidence in you. And I welcome you to the Rules Committee today as a chairman of the Intelligence Committee.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as I recognize Mr. McGovern, I'll ask unanimous consent. Without objection will appear in the record the Statement of Administration Policy, which was just handed to me. Mr. McGovern.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the bipartisan nature in which you bring this bill to the Rules Committee. And, I don't have any questions, but I want to just thank you for your work. Thank you.
Ms. Fox.
Well, Mr. McGovern and I are going to agree today.
Per usual,
want-
just
I
another
want-
day of the
That
Rules
back,
Committee.
a lot of concerns. I'm against the bill.
I couldn't hear what you said.
I said just another day at the Rules Committee.
Jim is. I want to thank you too, also, and say I have no questions.
Thank you.
Mr. Hastings.
Thank you very much. I appreciate very much your recognition of the fact that this is an extraordinary committee that has the responsibility of remaining silent. And you preface that by saying that members of Congress have a difficult time. I'm glad I'm on this committee so I can talk a lot, but I served with Dutch and Mike for all of the years until now that they were on the Intelligence Committee. And if I have any recommendation at all, if not now, at some point, particularly for the new members who have not had the experience, it would be helpful if you have questions that you go to the space of Intel and sign appropriately and read it as they have for hours, as a lot of us have for hours. I hear members grumble about things, but then they don't take the opportunity to go and actually read it. So don't, for one time, think that you, as a member of Congress, don't have that classified opportunity, but you have to seize it. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, it's just, Mr. Hastings and I served together, did a great job. He's very smart, very focused. And if you really look at what his job was, we call it down the hole where you don't have any windows. You spend so much time in intelligence, and then he also served on rules where you all spent an inordinate amount of time. So, you did both, and I want to acknowledge this committee and your job on intelligence, too.
Thank you very much. I wanted, Mr. Rogers.
And I just, to Mr. Hastings' point, it was always a pleasure to serve with Mr. Hastings, but tomorrow, or Thursday morning at 8 o'clock, down in the committee spaces, if anyone wants to come down and go through the classified annex of this intelligence bill, you are welcome. We'd love to have you. We'll have staff there that can help you understand it as well if you have any questions.
Are you having a big buffet breakfast, or what's your...
It's kind of a bring-your-own breakfast kind of an operation.
BYOB, right?
We're
Yeah,
pretty
I'm
tight
familiar with
down
those.
there.
We got a cut. So.
Another BYOB. Well, let me just state for the record, speaking personally, that I, too, am very happy that Mr. Hastings is on the Rules Committee, but not necessarily for the same reason that he is. Mr. Bishop. Mr. Polis.
Thanks again for your work, and I think the more that we can highlight the success of the intelligence community, not only with this particular operation took out bin Laden, but also generally in the war on terror. And I think that the intelligence community and special operations and all that are associated with it is the real front on that war. And those of us who continually make the case that we should end our occupation of Afghanistan and Iraq, as somebody who falls in that camp, I'm deeply committed to supporting our efforts to enhance our intelligence, special operations capability, and where I see the real front of the war on terror and where we can help keep America safe, much less expensively, but more importantly, much more effectively than we can by occupying 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 countries. I yield back.
Mr. Scott. Mr. Webster. Mr. Reed. Mr. Nugent. Yes, sir. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it, and thanks for your help in putting this package together.
Not often you
working
find a
with us.
former prosecutor and FBI agent sitting at the same time.
Yeah, well,
I keep telling him.
where there's life, there's hope.
Well, we're in the minority, and FBI agents should listen to their prosecutors.
Okay, well, we'll see.
We'll see.
Thank you very much.
Right.
You might mess it up.
Thank you very much. We're happy now to recognize our new colleague, gentleman from New York, Mr. Gibson. Please welcome for, what is this, your 10th appearance before the Rules Committee? Or? Oh, number one. I thought that might have been it. We're very, very happy to have you. As you see, there are a number of members of your great new 87-member strong class, 96 if you make it bipartisan, which we try to do here as often as we possibly can, and appreciate your great service to our country, by the way, I should add, and we're happy that you're here. And so let me say that without objection, if you have any prepared remarks, looks like you've just written me a thank you note there. Is that those are your notes there?
Yeah, that's it.
Well, if you want to submit those for the record, you can do that, or summarize however you see fit, Mr. Gibson. Welcome. We're glad to have you.
Well, Mr. Chairman, first of all, thank you, and I also thank the ranking member and to all the distinguished members of the Rules Committee. It's great to be with you today. And let me begin by echoing your comments as far as the committee's work, the Intel Committee's work. I've been down to the SCIF. I've read the work, the product of their labors, and certainly yeoman's work done now, very important. And I certainly applaud the entire intelligence community for their actions that led to the successful combat operation against Osama bin Laden. I think all Americans, this is a great couple weeks to be an American, really for all freedom-loving people around the world. And I come to you today with about a subject that I'm very passionate about, protecting our freedoms, national security, and the intelligence that undergirds all of that. I give you, from my perspective, what's certainly forefront are experiences I had in Iraq, a couple tours as a battalion commander after 9/11 in northern Iraq.
I don't want to interrupt you, but is it true that you served with Mr. Nugent's son?
I did.
That's what I heard this morning.
I did. I was his brigade commander, in fact. A tremendous young man. Really represents all that's good in America. But, those experiences, and then also I was the operations officer in another tour. I was the G3 for Multinational Division North. That's everything north of Baghdad. And I had the opportunity to work with Joint Special Operations Task Force on a daily basis. So I'm certainly a product of my experience like everybody else. And I saw firsthand, I believe, the virtues of a flat organization, of a very agile organization, of the intel and operations fusion that goes on to conduct successful operations. And so that's part of the experience I bring here today. But then, in addition, part of my research for the PhD was in national security decision making. So I've had an opportunity to look at the bureaucracy, the national security establishment. And what concerns me is that, particularly since the 11th of September of 2001, we have grown significantly the intelligence community. And I won't get into any numbers here for fear of getting into the classified realm, but I think we can all agree there's been significant growth in the intelligence communities, both in terms of organizations and personnel and budgets. And certainly the operation about a week ago attests to the fact that we can get successful operations protect America. But I think that one of the results coming out of the Keene Commission was that we wanted to create more government, the Director of National Intelligence. But in my view, we never gave that individual the budgetary and the legal authority to fully put their arms around the intelligence community and to be able to provide recommendations on how we can consolidate, streamline, to make more effective operations. And so I'm bringing forward today a very simple amendment. In fact, it's half a page. It basically says that we the people, the representatives of the people, we're interested in hearing from the DNI his recommendations on how now, after a successful operation and after years of growth, how best we can consolidate the intelligence community so that we can continue to provide for protection of our cherished way of life in a manner consistent for a republic and one that we can afford. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Very much appreciate it. And let me again congratulate you. And I will say that I think that you have a thoughtful amendment, and I'm going to encourage this committee to make your amendment in order for consideration on the floor when we move forward. And I have no questions. Mr. Sessions.
Thank you very much. Chris, congratulations not only upon your election but also your service to this country. I think it's meaningful that you have taken time to continue not only your education that you've been provided with but also your insight. And I think it's valuable and important that you continue your study, looking at an analysis from a policy perspective about what's in the best interest of not only this nation but also serving us well to make sure we're prepared for future endeavors. I just really offer words of encouragement and thoughts of thanks on behalf of at least the people of 32nd District of Texas for your great service and your continued service to this country, and congratulations.
Thank you, Bill.
Ms. Slaughter.
Thank you, Chris. I was very thoughtful and I appreciate you. Welcome to you personally.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ms. Fox.
Mr. Gibson, I want to thank you for your service, too, and I have no questions. Thank you.
Mr. McGovern.
Thank you.
Bishop. Mr. Hastings.
Mr. Gibson, those of us that were on the committee at the time that the D&I was stood up, including the two gentlemen that were just chaired, the chair and the ranking member, had and continue to have some serious reservations. One aspect of what you are requesting is done in many of its particulars or in trying to stovepipe things. I agree with your original statement, the premise of it, and that is that the D&I was never, in my judgment, appropriately funded in order to be able to accomplish what you are requesting. I would urge, and in light of the fact of your interest, I'd urge, if you can find the time, to meet with either of the previous D&I persons and or the D&I, and more specifically the Inspector General of the D&I. I think it would be helpful to your thoughts regardless of whether the amendment is made in order.
That's a great recommendation. Thank you very much. I have read their statements, but I haven't met with them personally, and I do appreciate the recommendation.
Mr. Nugent. Excuse me? Mr. Bishop, we've all...
Okay. My apologies. Well, good afternoon, Chris. It's just a point. Chris was a congressional fellow in his past life as an Army officer up here on the Hill, so he certainly has some background there. But I appreciate, particularly when you talk about consolidation of intelligence, because what we've learned prior to 9/11, and I'll tell you that some of that still exists today, is the lack of coordination on the intelligence side, where we still can go quite a bit further in regards to sharing of intelligence between intelligence agencies, because we still have the turf wars. Coming from law enforcement, I saw that up until the day I left. So I think anything that you can do in regards to getting D&I to really look at the consolidation of intelligence, so we're spending our money in an appropriate way, but more importantly, that we're getting, dramatic results.
Well, thank you, Richard. And, one illustration very quickly is, when on the 25th of December of 2009, a radicalized young lad that came from Africa, he flew to Europe, and were it not for a brave soul on the aircraft, we would have had another horrific attack on America. And what's very disappointing about that situation, to say the very least, is that that young man's father had called our country and said, "My son, I don't recognize him. I fear for what he could do. He could attack your country." And we were not able to harness that information, process it, and get it into an action arm fast enough. Now, I had the opportunity to talk to Admiral Olson about that, the Special Operations Command commander, and we had a very lengthy conversation about it, and it really just solidified my views that we need to take more action now along the lines I'm suggesting. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Newton, would you yield just one?
Yes, I would.
I thoroughly agree with everything that you and Mr. Gibson said, but I'll carry that a step further for you. Unrelated to intelligence, but sometimes related, you would be amazed, perhaps we should change the word from consolidation to coordination, how often it is that the State Department and Defense Department are not on the same page. And then there is yet another branch of the undertaking that I'm troubled by, and that is that many members of Congress, particularly those on the Intelligence Committee and Armed Services, spend a considerable amount of time gathering and being about the business of identifying areas that could be undertaken better by our government. And I would include the chairman and ranking member of this committee. They both have been abroad, and I'll bet you, with maybe a few exceptions, they have rarely been asked what it is they did, who they talked to, and my cry follows along the lines of what you were talking about. I just think the executive ignores much of what the legislative branch does and or is capable of doing. And the best example I can give you is you watch an airplane come from China with their leadership on it, or you watch one that comes from Russia with their leadership on it. What you will see step off of that airplane is somebody that has something to do with every aspect of their government. Now, you go about your business trying to travel with the Secretary of State or with the Defense Department person. I don't care whether it's a Republican or Democrat administration. You just try to see how that works for you. This is an interesting place. Chris is right about what he's saying.
Sir, I just want to echo those comments very briefly and just say that to the extent that you're concerned as well with the whole of government and coordination, I couldn't agree with you more. Which germane for today, of course, is the Intel Committee in its bill, but I'm also working on the House Armed Services Committee to do just what you say, and I would hope that that would be one of the recommendations that would come from the DNI, is that kind of thing that we would leverage going forward. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Hastings. I agree with you. It's a beautiful sunny day. If you walk outside a lot and not use the tunnels, you pick up on that. But, Chris, I want to thank you so much for your service. Thank you.
Scott? I'm still in shock. Sorry. You'll recover. Mr. Webster. Mr. Reed.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've gotten to know Chris. It's an honor to serve with you, Chris, and I truly do respect all of your prior service to this great country, and it's an honor to come from the state of New York with you, and I consider you a friend, and I look forward to supporting your amendment. And on a separate matter, though, Mr. Chairman, I would ask unanimous consent to insert a statement for the record by Congressman Grimm in support of our amendment number 22. He had other engagements and wasn't able to attend today, and I'm hopeful I'll have supported the committee for that amendment.
Without objection, Mr. Grimm's statement will be included in the record, and we'll talk about that from time. Thank you very much for being here, Mr. Gibson.
Thank you.
Appreciate your service, and thanks for, I think you bring everybody together here in the Rules Committee on your first appearance. We might ask you to come back more often.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you
very, very much.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. McGovern.
Can I ask unanimous consent to insert in the record the statement by Congressman John Carney?
Without objection, Mr. Carney's statement will appear in the record. Happy to recognize my fellow Angelino, my colleague Ms. Waters, and I will say as you're coming to the table that I'm going to recommend to this committee that we make your amendment in order.
Well, then, I don't have to take up your time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Well,
we're always happy to see you. I just want to say
I'm
we're
glad
always
to
happy
be here, and I
see
thank you very much for making my amendment in order.
Well, I haven't done it. I'm just going to ask that the committee do it. They might oppose me. You never know. I mean, they might oppose me. But thanks very much.
You're
no,
welcome.
That's okay. That's
Okay,
okay.
thank you.
I think that
This doesn't
you
happen
can feel
too
something.
often.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ms. Waters. That will conclude the hearing portion, and we have the rule here with amendments, and the chair will be in receipt of a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Chair will be in receipt of a motion from the gentleman from the Big D.
Mr. Chairman, I move the committee report a structured rule for consideration of H.R. 754, the Intelligence Authorization Act for fiscal year 2011. The rule provides 1 hour of general debate equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. The rule waives all points of order against consideration of the bill. The rule provides that the amendment in the nature of a substitute recommended by the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence now printed in the bill shall be considered as an original bill for the purpose of amendment shall be considered as read. The rule waives all points of order against the committee amendment in the nature of a substitute. The rule further makes an order only those amendments printed in the Rules Committee report accompanying the resolution. Each such amendment may be offered only in the order printed in the report, may be offered only by a member designated in the report, shall be considered as read, shall be debatable for the time specified in the report, equally divided and controlled by the proponent and opponent, shall not be subject to an amendment, and shall not be subject to a demand for the division of the question. All points of order against consideration of amendments are waived Finally, who provides one motion to recommit with or without instructions.
You've heard the motion of the gentleman. Let me explain what we have before us here. We have seen the Intelligence Committee pre-conference with the Senate, but we still felt very strongly that Democrats and Republicans alike had amendments, and we wanted to make those in order. So we've made 5 Democratic amendments in order, 4 Republican amendments, and I should say that we made the germane amendments in order with the exception of the amendment of Mr. Turner, which was addressing the exact same subject that Mr. Welch, former Rules Committee colleague, had offered, and so we've made Mr. Peter Welch's amendment in order. And we also, based on the discussion that I just had with Chairman Rogers on the whistleblower issue, it's something that we do want to address, but it needs to be dealt with at the Committee on Government Oversight and Government Reform as well, and so we did not make that amendment in order. I should say that, interestingly enough, the amendment that Mr. Grimm is offering, which Mr. Reed just discussed and submitted Mr. Grimm's statement, was initially offered by Mr. Nadler, and it would have been a Democratic amendment. Mr. Nadler withdrew the amendment, and Mr. Grimm decided that he wanted to, in fact, spend some time and energy and effort praising those who were involved in the capture and killing of Osama bin Laden. And I know that Mr. Grimm was looking for a Democrat to co-sponsor the amendment, but it's considered to be a Republican amendment here. But again, this is the amendment that Mr. Nadler had first offered. And so I'm very, very happy. We'll have 10 minutes to debate on each of the amendments, but Mr. Grimm, in light of the fact that I think it's appropriate for us to spend time and allow members an opportunity to praise those who were involved, we're going to have 30 minutes of debate in order on that. So are there any amendments to the rule?
Do we have the rule? Do we have a copy of it?
This is it right here, Ms.
Okay,
Slaughter.
all right. You know, I'm so used to those colored rules.
Well, this is. In fact, yesterday we had green for, I said
Yeah.
BP.
So we done
this is
white.
black.
That's
This is
fine.
black for the covert ops.
I
is what I've
see.
been,
The big black box. Okay. Yes, Mr. Chair, I do move that the committee report an open rule for consideration of H.R. 754 so that all members have the opportunity to offer amendments to this legislation. And for myself, let me say I look forward to Mr. Graham's amendment.
Good. And let me just say again that we have made in order all of the germane amendments that were submitted to
Mr.
us,
Grimm
with the
and Mr.
exception
Reed.
of Mr. Turner's and Mr. Holt's that I mentioned. That were one was duplicative, the other is going to be addressed in a more comprehensive way. And so, needless to say, I think that since we're addressing all of the issues, that this amendment is not that necessary. The vote occurs on the Slaughter amendment. Those in favor will say aye. Oh,
Mr. Chairman, with reference to the open rule, concerning why I think it would be helpful, while I'm deeply appreciative of the Nadler measure now being the Grimm measure, and that they were the same. Just as a for example, Mr. Nadler and Mr. Bishop and Mr. Owens and Ms. Slaughter had an amendment that I think is much more pertinent to the issue being raised, in that it addresses the fact that while this continuum of extraordinary work on behalf of the intelligence community culminated at some point, it culminated with a rather courageous undertaking with the buck stopping at the president's desk. And somewhere along the lines, I'm beginning to find it troubling that our colleagues can't bring themselves to the point of saying, I recognize and would say and compliment the extraordinary work that was done by our intelligence community and the previous president of the United States in reference to trying to catch Osama bin Laden. But I don't find it helpful that we can't bring ourselves to say that President Obama did undertake to do what was a rather extraordinary and courageous step. And toward that end, I think an open rule would give members who have not only that sentiment but others an opportunity to express themselves.
thanks for your thoughts. Let me just say that I have publicly, as I think Democrats and Republicans alike have, praised and congratulated President Obama for the very bold and gutsy decision that he made to take this action, and I think that he's enjoyed support. There's been praise for President Bush as well, and we have done that. I know that that'll be part of this. The amendment to which the gentleman refers is actually not germane to the bill. That's the reason that it wasn't made in order. I suspect had it been germane that we would have made it in order. And if we have an open rule, the amendment won't be considered because it's not germane. So, no, I mean, this is, if you want an open rule, the amendment would not be in order under an open rule. So, anyway, the vote occurs on the slaughter amendment. Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. Opinion of the chair, the noes have it. The noes have it. The motion is not agreed to. Are there further amendments? If not, the vote occurs on the motion of the gentleman from Dallas. Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. Opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. And Mr. Sessions will be managing for the majority.
And Mr. Hastings.
And Mr. Hastings for the minority. That should complete our work for the week. Thank you all very much. Great job at the desk there, Mr. Halpern, taking the roll call. And without objection, the committee stands adjourned.